जनशला अक्षरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सागररघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we are in the 14th chapter, 14th verse. We'll start 14th verse today. So we are studying the section C, where Krishna, as the maintainer of the existence, is being discussed. Krishna should be seen as the splendor of the sun, moon, fire, as one keeping the planets in orbit and making vegetables succulent, as the fire of digestion, as the Paramatma in everyone's heart, as the giver of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, and as the compiler of Vedanta and the goal of the Vedas. Vedaischa sarvam ahameva vedya. The goal of studying Vedas is to know Krishna. So that is what is going to be discussed. We can read these slokas. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva
Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva
Inam Dehamashrita
Praninam Dehamashrita
Anapana Samayukta
Pranapana Samayukta
Pachami Annam Chaturvidham.
Pachami Annam Chaturvidam.
Please read the translation.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. The fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities, and I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of foodstuff.
So Krishna, so in the body there is fire of digestion. If you touch your throat, you feel the hotness, right? You will experience that body has the temperature. Who actually is keeping the temperature? So, and also to digest food, we need fire in the stomach, right? So that fire of digestion in the body is actually Krishna. And I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, to digest the four kinds of stuff. So with our the body takes in the air, goes in the stomach, and it helps the digestion. So in this way, even to digest food, this body is like a perfect mission, and Krishna is helping in every process. Even to digest food, we need help of Krishna. Yeah. So please read this.
According to Ayurvedic Shastra, we understand that there is a fire in the stomach which digests all food sent there. When the fire is not blazing, there is no hunger, and when the fire is in order, we become hungry. Sometimes when the fire is not going nicely, treatment is required.
So it's just like a mission. There is heat in the body, and If that heat is not well, then digestion will not happen for the individual, and it requires Ayurvedic treatment or any treatment, some treatment. Yeah. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto
Sarvasya chasam
Chaham hridhi sannivishto
sannivishto
matta smritirjnanamapohanam cha
mata
matta smriti jnanamapunam
jnanam
cha
apoham cha
vedaischa sarvairahmeva vedya
Vedaistu charvairahamev vedyo
vidyo
vedanta kridveda videva chaham.
Vedanta
Vedanta kridveda videva chaham.
This is a very, very important verse. It means sarvasya chaham. Sarvasya means every living entity. Aham means me. Krishna is saying I am. I am. Where am I staying in every living entity? Hridi sannivishta. In the heart. Hridi means heart. Sannivishta means I am situated. So Krishna is there in every living entity's heart. Heart is the center of the function of life, right? It is the one that pumps the blood. It is the one that maintains the body. So heart is the most, we say, right? This is the heart of the issue. Means that is the main part of the body, right? This is the main issue. So when we say sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto, God is present in the heart of every living entity. Heart means the central part. If suppose some living entities, it's not just human being, it's all living entities. If there are certain living entities which do not have something like heart, then whatever is the heart. Heart means the essential part of the body. Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Mattaha, from me. Smriti means remembrance. Jnanam means knowledge. Apohanam means forgetfulness. So all these three things, remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, comes from me, mattaha. So if you remembered something from the past, understand that that is actually coming from Krishna. If you have some knowledge, you're able to use that knowledge. That knowledge is also given to you by Krishna. Similarly, forgetfulness. If you forget something that you are made to forget, because that is also given by Krishna. Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo. Vedaischa sarvair. From all the Vedas, right? By studying all the Vedas. What is the goal of studying all the Vedas? Aham eva vedyo. I am to be known, right? Means if you study all the Vedas and your understanding of the Vedic wisdom is something else other than to surrender to God, to surrender to Krishna, then you basically miss the essential point. That's what that means. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedyo. If you study all the Vedas, all the Puranas, all the Itihasas, and then finally you did not surrender your life to God or Krishna, then you miss the essential point. If you're directly studying Krishna, or you study Vedas and try to understand the essence of Vedas, ultimately the point is that you should surrender your life to Krishna. If you don't, then you miss the essential wisdom of Vedas, right? Vedanta krit veda videva chaham. And I am the krit means compiler. Vedanta krit veda videva chaham. Vedavid means knower of the Vedas. I am the knower of the Vedas and I am the compiler of the Vedas. Very clear. Aham, aham. You see the word aham. It's not like somebody else known as God. No. Krishna is saying about himself here, straight. So I am sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. Is Krishna there in your heart? Yes. Is he there in my heart? Yes. Is he there in every animal's heart? Yes, he is there. He is there everywhere, in every living entity's heart. And by his presence, he gives us the remembrance, he gives us the knowledge, he gives us the forgetfulness. And then he is the person to be known by all the Vedic study. And he is the original compiler of the Vedas, and he is the original knower of the Vedas. Yeah. Please read translation.
I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of Vedas.
So, who is the actual compiler of all the Vedas? If I ask you, what would you answer? Who wrote all the Vedas? The four Vedas. Vedas, correct. So Vedas is an avatar of Krishna only. So that is why he's also an incarnation. So when he says, I am the compiler, it is also correct because Vedas is an incarnation of Krishna. Yeah, please read this.
The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna in his incarnation as Vyasadeva is the compiler of Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra.
So Vedanta Sutra is the final composition of Vedavyas. Final composition means after giving all the four Vedas, Upanishads, Upavedas, Itihasas, Puranas, 18 Puranas, and so many auxiliary scripts, he finally wrote Vedanta Sutra. That is his conclusive work. And Vedanta Sutra is the summary of entire Vedic knowledge. So, and it is in short aphorisms, like short formulas. It comprises the entire Vedic wisdom. And after compiling Vedanta Sutra, the final conclusion, he wrote one more book. That is his final last thing that he gave to the world. And what is that? Anyone knows? What did Vedavyas wrote at the end of all the other writings?
Srimad Bhagavatam, right?
Yes. Srimad Bhagavatam is the final writing of Vedavyas. In his most mature understanding of God, he has authored Srimad Bhagavatam. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, what is his main character? Krishna. Krishna is the main character. He describes all the incarnations, Lord Rama, Narsingadev, Vamana, all incarnations are described. But he accepts Lord Krishna as the original fountainhead incarnation of all other incarnations. So it is his final magnum opus, the authoritative final wisdom that he has given in his most mature understanding, at mature age, he has compiled this scripture. So that is why it is considered the fruit of Vedic wisdom. While the branches, the leaves, all of these are Vedas. The final fruit of Vedic wisdom is Srimad Bhagavatam, because it is Nigama Kalpataro. Nigama is the most mature fruit of Vedic wisdom is Srimad Bhagavatam. So in one's lifetime, one must study Bhagavatam. If he studied any other Mahabharata, this and that, Bhagavad Gita, that is all good. But if he has not studied Srimad Bhagavatam, life is not perfect. People say that. This is the so in Telugu also there is a saying, Tinte garil tinali, vinte Bhagavatam vinali. is a sweet nectar. It is like juice, ripened mango juice to the ear. Very tasty. Anywhere you touch, it is juicy, fruity. You can touch and eat from anywhere. So Bhagavatam, you can open any page. There is pure nectar of Lord's pastimes. So that is his final composition. In many ways, you can see how Krishna is, the incarnation of Krishna is, very much emphasized in all the scriptures. And Krishna himself says here, he's the fountainhead of all, he's the knower of the Vedas, he's the person in everyone's heart as Paramatma. From him come everything, right? So very clear. So in International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we emphasize on two books. One is Bhagavad Gita. Second is, actually it is primarily Srimad Bhagavatam we study, because that gives the essence of Vedic wisdom. So one can study all the other Vedas, grammar, Sanskrit, this and that. But finally, if he does not come to the right conclusion, or the final, if the compiler of Vedas himself says, hey, this is the essential wisdom, then why bother about other Vedic wisdom, right? So the whole story of how Srimad Bhagavatam came is also very interesting. So he compiled all these Vedas, but he was not satisfied in heart. So he was praying to his guru. His guru is Narada Muni. And Narada Muni appears and he asks, why are you sad, my dear student, Vedavyas? You have given everything for the welfare of the world. People have a clear path to God. Why are you sad? Then Vyasadeva says, I don't know, Lord, I am not fully satisfied with the work I give. Then Narada Muni says, yes, I know why you are sad. The reason is simple. In the name of Vedas, you have given so many vratas, so many pujas, so many stories on how one can get different things from this world by worshipping different devatas. That is your 90% focus. Of course, you gave the essence also to surrender to God, but the problem is the people of the conditioned world or the conditioned soul in the material existence, they're always hankering for material happiness. Now you try to give this whole wisdom, but most will be stuck in these Vedic rituals and they don't get the essence, which is to surrender to God. So by giving this alternative wisdom, which is focused on the demigod worship and achieving material results in this world, you gave a pseudo-religion in a way. Or people might just, because of their conditioned nature, they will be happy just doing various pujas and they will never surrender their life to God. So that is the reason you are not satisfied. Now give a wisdom which is devoid of all this material fulfillment, pujas, vratas, offering this and offering that. no rituals, no nothing, just give pure God's wisdom. Then he embarked on compiling with Srimad Bhagavatam. That is his final conclusive work. So that is the magnum opus, or the essential wisdom given by Vedavyas. And after giving that, he was fully satisfied. So that is the story of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's actually in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. In the first canto, there is the story of origin of Srimad Bhagavatam. How did Srimad Bhagavatam came into existence? So in that, this story is given, whatever we discussed.
Prabhuji,
Hmm.
oh, so you said Krishna said he's in everybody's heart. If
Mhm.
he's in everybody's heart, can't he stop persons doing all these killings like sins?
He can. He doesn't interfere. For example, you have a son or a daughter. He is very young. You tell them not to play with some things, but will you stop them forcefully all the time? If you stop them all the time, there is no real love, it is only force. So Krishna is also, as Paramatma, acts as a neutral person. So neutral means if conditioned soul by his own free will surrenders to God, he wholeheartedly welcomes that, and he opens the path of surrender to God. But on the other hand, if he chooses not to surrender and he instead want to enjoy as per his whims or will, he doesn't interfere. Because if there is interference in one's free will, that's not love. Just like a father example you take, like father will guide, father will give Vedic wisdom, father will feed us, father will do everything. But what we become is up to us. We cannot be forced by father. Right? Simple example, right? Krishna was directly there in this world when Duryodhana was there, right? All these Kauravas were there. Did Kauravas listen to Krishna when he was there, when he was giving them guidance not to get, just give these 5 Pandavas, just 5 villages, they are Kshatriyas by their, by their karma, they have to rule. Just give them 5 villages. Will Duryodhana listen to Krishna's advice? He wouldn't. He wouldn't listen to his father's advice. Yeah, so conditioned soul is a very adamant, has a very adamant nature. It extends to different levels. This is what I'm talking is the extreme level. We may have our own level of adamancy. So the thing is, it's how do I say? So God will advise. God will. There is called, there is this inner voice. We all have the guiltiness when we do wrong. That is actually, voice of God from within our heart. Sometimes we feel guilty. Should I do this? Should I not? Am I hurting that person? Uh, you know. So those are all actually the Paramatma's force from within. But we might override. It's up to us. God doesn't interfere with our actions. He will only inspire us as a loving father. Because when there is force, there is no love. Is that clear?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
One question.
Yes, Matish.
Exactly what is meant by surrender to Lord? Means, is it reading or chanting or listening, or precisely can you tell me?
There is a verse.
or serving.
So this is the words for surrender. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshisyatiti ishvaso goptritve varnam tata atmanikshepa karpanya sadvidhi sharanagati. Sharanagati means surrender. The process of surrender. So there are 6 divisions of surrender. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotion service. Means in our life, we accept those things in our life which are favorable to God's service. Right? If suppose drinking is not conducive to remembering God, we'll stop drinking. If gambling is non conducive to God consciousness, we'll stop gambling. There are do's and don'ts. We avoid don'ts and we do accept do's. Like everyday worship Krishna, those are all do's. Performing various Navavidha Bhakti, that is all do's. You can pray to God, you can study Bhagavatam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Spada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Atmanivedanam. So those are all favorable things. Rejection of the unfavorable things, we already discussed. And then the conviction that Krishna will give protection. No matter what, Krishna will protect me. I am not afraid of anybody and I'm not going to fear anything. Krishna is my protector. This is the conviction Prahlad Maharaj had. He would not bend before his father. He will say, when his father says, how dare you speak like that to me, that Vishnu is the source of everything. Who gave you that strength? Then he says, I got the strength from the same person that you got strength. And the source of all strength is only Vishnu. So in that way, so he explained, so that conviction should be there. You may not develop right away. As you sincerely practice sadhana, study scripture, we will develop that. You already will have some, but it will mature over a period of time as you engage in devotion service. The conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master. My real master is not my manager. My real master is not my father. Of course, we definitely accept father as our immediate master, but we are ultimately answerable to Krishna. Right? He is my true protector, true savior, true maintainer. Right? Fully self-surrender and humility, and always humble. Right? Why we should be humble? Because we're already in the wrong place. If you are in a jail, you better be humble. Why to be proud of anything you have if you are in jail, right? You're already, the idea is you should be humble. Full self-surrender. So these are the aspects. Main thing is accept things which are favorable, reject things unfavorable, full faith in Krishna's protection, and accept Krishna as your guardian, right? So that is surrender. Surrender to God. Krishna, Rama, whoever it is. So that acceptance of faith, that conviction is the most important thing. Is it clear, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Yeah, please read this.
The Vedas give us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 1.1.4 confirms this in the following words. Tat tu samanvayat. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach Him.
Yeah, and at the end, sorry, continue.
And at the end, one can attain the supreme goal, which is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah, this is the essence of Vedic wisdom, right? So what is discussed here is called. So there are three aspects that we can learn from Vedas. It's called, in Sanskrit terms, it's called Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Three things. Sambandha means knowledge of a relationship of oneself with God. Sambandha, right? You understand God is the supreme and you are his eternal loving servant, and your place is actually to be with him in the spiritual world. You are in a temporary place right now. The way forward is to surrender to him, right? So that is sambandha, understanding your relation with God. Right now we only relate to our family, father, mother, family, children, but the idea is to relate to God as your real father, right? So that is sambandha. Abhideya means once you understand, okay, Krishna is my true father, you need to do something about it. Abhideya means acting in that relationship. How do you act? You chant the holy name to connect to him every day. You offer bhoga to Krishna. You pray every day to Krishna. So in this way, to get you close to him. So in this way, you act in that relation. It's called abhideya, sambandha abhideya. And then what happens? Prayojana, or a period of time, you realize, I'm saying word realize, the relation you have with God. It's not just a theoretical understanding anymore. You yourself feel that love for Krishna. Why would Mirabai be so loving towards Krishna? Why so many pure devotees were acting in a different level of consciousness in their relationship with God, like Ramanujacharya, like Madhvacharya? So all these great devotees, why they have such surrender to God? Because they are able to experience that relation with God. We are not there. We are still purifying our heart through sadhana. So when we purify our heart sufficiently, then we experience love of God every minute, right? Then anandambudi vardhanam pratipadam purnamrita swadanam. Every minute is like nectar. Whether your body is cooperating or not with your, whether you get old. Generally, when you get old, you become miserable in life because you cannot do anything with your senses. But when you surrender to God, the older you get, the wiser you become, and your love for God only increases. And you do not depend on anybody. You become the happiest person in the world by the time you leave this body. So, Pratipadam Purna Amrita Aswadam. Amrita Aswadam means nectarian. So, Prayojana stage is when one really experiences the spiritual bliss. And that requires sadhana, and sadachar, and practice, surrender. This is all playground time right now. We are preparing for exam. But when the result is available, it's a completely spiritual experience. Right? We see how it is true. How am I saying that is all going to happen? Yeah, we saw so many examples of great devotees in the past. Mirabai, for example, Tukara, Sant Tukara, Bhakta Ramadas. So many well-known surrendered devotees of Lord. These are very, 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 very well-known names. Other than that, in every home, there are many, many great devotees who are experiencing that bliss. It's not something new. It's all happening for millennia. Okay, we can also get there through our sadhana. So that is the essence, right? It's clear. Any questions? Okay, let's move on to the next. Dvav imau purushau loke
Dvavimo Purusha Loke
karakshara Ksharaschakshara eva cha. Kshara sarvani bhutani. Kutasto kshara uchyate. Yeah, please read.
There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible.
There are two kinds of living entities. One is Akshara, second is Akshara. Akshara means fallible, and Akshara means infallible. Fallible means the people of the material world or the conditioned souls. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. And in the spiritual world, you see, for the first time, you're hearing about another location where living entities of a different type exist. Right? In the spiritual world, every living entity is infallible. So the material existence, material universe, this is one Brahmanda. There are many such Brahmandas. But within each Brahmanda, the living entities are mainly fallible or conditioned souls, meaning they are basically, conditioned souls who are struggling with their senses. Fallible means fallen, right? They're not in their original position. Right? We're all originally from. We all are spiritual. So we do not belong to material realm to begin with. So we actually belong to spiritual realm, but temporarily we are in the material world. Yeah, so we are fallible. Yeah, please read this.
The living entities are eternally separated parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When they are in contact with the material world, they are called Jiva Bhuta. And the Sanskrit words given here, Shara, Sarvani, Bhutani, mean that they are fallible. Those who are in oneness with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, are called infallible.
Yeah, continue.
Oneness does not mean that they have no individuality, but that there is no disunity. They are all agreeable to the purpose of the creation. Of course, in the spiritual world, there is no such thing as creation. But since the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra, is the source of all emanations, that conception is explained.
So those who are fully agreeable to God, right? Like there are children who listen to God, and there are children always, father, and there are children who do not listen, right? It's always the case. So the spiritual world, the people there are in full compliance with God, 100%. They're always, their pleasure is to serve Lord, and in that exchange they become the happiest, and in that relation Krishna is the happiest, right? So but in the material world, people are trying to be happy on their own, and because that cannot be, that kind of mentality cannot be entertained in spiritual world. If suppose you want to become happy and enjoy in your own terms, you cannot be in the spiritual realm, because that is a place where everybody is surrendered to God and they are in a perfect relation with God. That is, you are misplaced in a spiritual world. So you are now placed in the material world so that you can enjoy as you wish, right? For example, president's son goes to president and says, daddy, I want to be president like you. Then father says, no, my son, you are not elected representative, you cannot be president. Then son says, no, you are, I really like the way you are, talking to your cabinet, ministry. I really want to be like that. Then father says, oh, father cannot just say, no, 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 you cannot be president. Then he will say, okay, so what he will do, he will ask his secretary to create a dummy presidential, office. And he will have his son sit in the dummy office, and he will have opportunity to have with, talk with some servants like he is president. Right? Now the son goes there, he sits in the president chair, and he commands all the people around him, and he feels like he is the president temporarily, right? But when he's hungry, he cannot get anything done in that president role. When he's hungry, he'll go back to his mummy and ask, mummy, mummy, I need food, right? As a president, he cannot get that. So similarly, the jivas in the material world are exactly like that. We said we cannot be with you, my lord. Tata, bye bye. We want to enjoy on our own terms. Okay. You cannot enjoy in the spiritual world. If you want to enter, try to enjoy yourself if you can in the material world. That's exactly like how the president had arranged to satisfy his son, because son is adamant, what can father do? He has to do something like that. So the whole entire material universe, with Brahma being the head, is like a mirror reflection of the spiritual world. But it's a perverted reflection. It's not reality, just like we studied in the first few verses. Like there is a real tree and there is a shadow of the tree in the water. In the real tree, you can really taste the fruits. But in the shadow, you try to catch the fruit, mango fruit, in the shadow of the water, of the tree, shadow of the tree in the water. It appears like it is real fruit. You try to catch it, you'll never catch it. So in this material world also, you can, from your own experience, you can feel. You try to achieve something in life as if it will give you full happiness. You get that happiness is only short-lived. Again, you go for the next. So understand, this material world is exactly like the child's play. Like the president example, president created this. So Lord has created this whole thing as a place for reformation. You can play as long as you can, go through various lives. Okay, you want this body, go enjoy tiger body. You want to eat meat, go enjoy tiger body. You want to be a sane person, become a human being. You want to study Vedas, they're available. But if you don't choose, you can't. So all the arrangements are made in the material world by God. If you want to surrender, there is full opportunity for that. If you want to enjoy senses, there is opportunity for that. Do and go through so many lives suffering in this world as much as you want, as much as you can. But ultimately, what happens is Jiva will get frustrated after trying so many things. And then finally he will surrender, right? So that is the cycle of life. Just like when the child wants something real, he cannot get anything in that dummy presidential rule. He will have to come to his mommy and ask for it. Then only he will get what he wants. Correct? So similarly, we try to enjoy as much as we can, but we can't, and then we ultimately surrender to God. We realize, okay, this is all futile nonsense I'm doing, trying to enjoy my senses, and all the senses are temporary. All that I gained is going to be lost anyway. I better surrender to God, right? So that is the conclusion one comes to at the end of it. Uttama Purushastvanya
Uttama Purushastvanya
Paramatmeti Udahrita Yolokatrayam Avishya
Yogatrayam Adhishya
Bibharti Avyaya Ishvara.
Bibharti
Avyaya Ishvara.
Ishvara.
Yeah, please read.
Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the immeasurable Lord Himself, who has entered three worlds and is maintaining them.
Since we talked about Kshara and Akshara, which is some jivas in the spiritual world, some jivas in the material world. And he says, so people sometimes think, I become God and I and God are no different. Explicitly it's mentioned here. Uttama Purushatvanya. Tva means there is one more separate person, right? Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Who is he talking about? Which Vishnu is this?
Kshirodakasai Vishnu.
The next one, Garbhodaksa Vishnu.
Okay.
Kshirodaksa is within the heart of every jiva.
Right.
Garbhodaksa is the one personality for the universe, from whose navel comes the lotus on which Brahma is born. Swayam Rupa Brahma. So, yeah. He's the controller of all these living entities. Yeah. So he's the one that is maintaining all the three worlds. Yasmat Ksharam Atitoham.
Aksharam atitoham
Aksharat Apichottama.
akshara
Aksharapi Gotama.
Atosmi Loke Vede Cha.
atosmi loke vede
Prati Pratita Purushottama.
pratita purushottama.
Please read.
Because I am transcendental beyond both the fallible and infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person.
So now Krishna is talking about himself. Because I am transcendental beyond both the fallible and the infallible. He is above the liberated souls in the spiritual world. Okay, infallible also. And because I'm the greatest, very clear, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person, Purushottama. So very clearly Krishna is assertively speaking about his position, right? Because tomorrow nobody should claim I am God, okay? Very clearly, it's not like God is trying to proclaim himself as, egoistically as a God. It is like, for example, it is for our own benefit, because we cannot learn about God by our own efforts. It is only God who can reveal us about his identity. So if he is kind enough, he will reveal so that we can know what is the right thing to do. Okay. It is like, for example, there was one person, he heard in his neighborhood, there is a very rich man who is also very, very compassionate and very charitable. So he goes to that village because he's a fundraiser. So he goes to that village, wanted to raise some funds for some very good causes. So he goes there, tries to find the person, and that person is actually, so he goes to that home, and in that home there was a big garden, because he's a very rich person, and he find a gardener who is gardening the water. Okay. This person doesn't know who is the owner. So he asks the person, hello sir, can you take me to the owner of this home? I wanted to talk to him about a charitable cause. And the gardener says, oh, it is me only. I am the owner of this home, and I am the person who you are referring to. Okay, I am the person who did some charitable causes in the past. A sideway walker is passing and he sees this, this person speaking like this. Hey, I am the owner of this home and I was the person who you are looking for. And, I was the one, I did actually, engage in some charitable activities in the past. The person passing by who already knows him thinks, hey, he may be a rich person. Why does he have to talk about himself like that? If he doesn't, how would the person who came would know about him? He has to tell he's not the gardener only, he's also the owner. So people observing may feel, sometimes these words are egoistic, like, why Krishna has to declare like this. But if Krishna doesn't tell, who will tell? Right? We should understand that. So, and so that there is no confusion about the position of God in anybody's mind, right? So that is the reason Krishna speaks like this in Bhagavad Gita. Please read this.
No one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, neither the conditioned soul nor the revelated soul. He is therefore the greatest of personalities. Now it is clear here that the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are individual. The difference is that these living entities, either in the conditioned state or in the liberated state, cannot surpass in the quantity the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is correct to think of the Supreme Lord and the living entities as being on the same level or equal in all respects. There is always the question of superiority and inferiority between their personalities. The word Uttama is very significant. No one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So no one can ever become Supreme Lord. Yomam evam asammudho
Yomam evam
Asamurto
janati purushottamam
Janati Purushottamam
sasarvavid bhajati mam
Sasarvavid Bhajati Mam
sarve bhavena bharata. Sarva bhavena.
Sarve Bhavena Bharata.
Yeah, please read this.
Whenever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting, he is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata.
Whoever knows me as the Lord without doubting, no doubts about God's position, is the knower of everything. Is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotion service unto me. Sasarva with bhajati ma. Bhajati means worship. Right? Renders devotion service. Sasarva bhajati mam sabhavena sarva bhavena bharata. With all surrender. Right? Fully gives. So if you want to call somebody as the knower of everything, the pinnacle of wisdom, somebody knows this is the person who has the knowledge of the final understanding of spirituality, right? There is nothing about to be known. Okay? Very clearly Krishna says that is possible when somebody knows Krishna. You see, that is what it means. It doesn't mean, if you know anything else in spirituality, if you know some other personality, some other thing, some other character, some other process and paths, it's incomplete. Very clear, right? You may know many other things, But Krishna says this is the final level of understanding one can get to. Okay. So fortunately, we are all on that understanding directly itself, right? So we are not in so many other paths that so many other organizations proclaim, teach, whatnot. So this is the conclusive wisdom given by Krishna. He therefore engages himself in devotions, in full devotion service to me, O son of Bharata. So once you know Krishna is the highest to be known, is the greatest personality, is the most, not only greatest, he is also the most loving person. He's like more than like our real father. He's always the most loving person. So then what is the difficulty in surrendering oneself? He's not like a taskmaster. He's the loving father. So one would be happy to surrender in full devotion service to him. Please read this.
There are many philosophical speculations about the constitutional position of the living entities and the supreme absolute truth. Now, in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead clearly explains that even who knows Lord Krishna to be the Supreme Person is actually the knower of everything. The imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about the absolute, but the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages that
Yeah.
Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Throughout the whole of Bhagavad Gita, this fact is being stressed at every step. And still, there are so many stubborn commentators on Bhagavad Gita who consider the Supreme Absolute Truth, the living entities, to be one and the same.
So interestingly, there are so many people who wrote on Bhagavad Gita commentaries, and they came to various conclusions, unfortunately. For example, Swami Vivekananda concludes that you can do anything and achieve perfection. Like you can be a great football player and not, surrender life to God and still achieve highest perfection. It's all, so much nonsense goes in the name of Bhagavad Gita. And Mahatma Gandhi also translated Bhagavad Gita, and he was trying to prove his philosophy through that. Like Ahimsa Paramo Dharma. The whole Bhagavad Gita is spoken in the context of war, and Arjuna, Krishna is reminding Arjuna to perform his constitutional duty as a Kshatriya to fight for Dharma. And Mahatma Gandhi is trying to prove that Krishna is trying to teach peace in this world. So many commentators with their own specific agendas come to this wisdom text and try to, without parampara, they don't follow any parampara. Their knowledge is not coming in the line of teachers starting from Krishna. So people wrote so many commentaries according to their own understanding, their own specific philosophies. They try to use Gita as a vehicle for proving their philosophies, unfortunately. Because Gita is very famous. Everybody, has respect for it. Let me use that as a vehicle to prove my philosophy. Right? It doesn't work like that. So by studying such books, it doesn't change our heart because it's completely diluted. The real lesson is hidden, and commentators' agenda is driving the translations. Correct. So when that happens, then people will not gain any faith. Right? This is a fact. You think all Bhagavad Gitas are one? No, there are 800 versions of Bhagavad Gitas. Hardly a handful of them are true, authentic versions coming in a line of parampara. And fortunately, this is one of the best such edition because this is accepted as a textbook in many universities as well. For that reason only, because there is authority in this book. You see, you won't find this kind of word-to-word translation in most of the books. There is some words, The author, according to his own understanding, will write his translation. So you cannot correlate whether what Krishna is saying through these words and this translation that they give is same or not, because that is their understanding. So Prabhupada made it very authoritative by giving this word. This is like a textbook, right? Very akka, word to word translation, and then his paramparic understanding in here, right? So in this way, it is very authentic edition. Right? Yeah. So clearly in these verses, what is Krishna saying? Surrender unto me. That's it. And performing devotion service is the highest. Words are sasarva with bhajati mam. Mam means me. Bhajati means devotion service. What is he referring? Perform devotion service to me. And commentators write, worship the invisible. What is that? Mam, word mam it's a personal conversation between two people, Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna is in trouble and is asking. Krishna is saying, Bhajati mam, worship me. Why would Krishna refer to something unknown, some euphoric idea, right? It's very straight conversation between two people. So we should understand these, a lot of people lose track because they hear these so many confused versions of Bhagavad Gita and can't really differentiate what is the authentic message, right? We are fortunate, we are not great scholars of Sanskrit, but by the aspect of coming in a line of authentic teachers, by their guidance, by their lessons, by their teachings, we are learning the highest wisdom. It is as good as hearing directly from Krishna, because we teach in line with what Krishna intended originally in his direct conversation with Arjuna. Yeah, please read this again. Please,
The word bhajati is very significant. Many places the word bhajati is expressed in relationship with the service of the Supreme Lord. A person is engaged in full Krishna consciousness in the devotional service of the Lord. It is to be understood that he has understood all the Vedic words.
Yeah, read this line.
But if anyone, after speculating for hundreds of thousands of lives, does not come to the point that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that one has to surrender there, all his speculation for so many years and lives is a useless waste of time.
Very clear from these verses. Iti guhya tamam shastram
Tigutya tamam shastram
Shastram
idam uktam maya naga
Idam
Idam uktam maya naga
etad buddha buddhimam syat
etad buddhva buddhimam syat
krityascha bharata.
kritascha bharata.
Yeah. Ita guhya tamam shastram. Guhya tamam means, guhya means very confidential, very, very secret. Guhya tamam, guhya taram means more confidential. Guhya tamam means the most confidential. Shastram, in the revealed scriptures. Idam, this, what I am just telling you right now, this is the most essential knowledge hidden in these Vedas or in these great scriptures. Yeah, please read translation.
This is the most confidential part of Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is discussed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection.
So whatever I'm telling you right now, you may study all the Vedas, but if this is the most confidential part of the Vedas. This is the most, conclusive wisdom of Vedic knowledge. O sinless one, Mayanagha, And it is disclosed now by me. Idam Uktam, I told you now. Whoever understands this will be wise, become wise. So he's telling all of us, whoever is trying to understand this knowledge, become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. This is my blessing. Their endeavors, because whatever endeavor they do after hearing this knowledge, they do that endeavor with the clear understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And the purpose of my life is to surrender unto him in every activity I do. Just like Arjuna, he fought the war, but in full surrender to Krishna. So whatever you do cooking, or working, or being a doctor or engineer, doesn't matter. Clearly understand you are fully surrendered to Krishna. In that spirit, if you act, that endeavor will definitely achieve perfection. Kritakrityascha Bharata. Perfect. You will achieve, if you want to achieve perfection in your endeavors, so act with this wisdom that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and surrender to him is the highest path and process. And we are in this material world stuck, and we need to surrender to go back to God. Yeah, please read this.
The Lord clearly explains here that this is the substance of all revealed scriptures, and one should understand this as it is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, one will become intelligent and perfect in transcendental knowledge. In other words, by understanding this philosophy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engaging in his transcendental service, everyone can become freed from all contaminations of the modes of material nature. Devotional service is the process of spiritual understanding. Whatever devotional service exists, the material contamination cannot coexist. Devotional service to the Lord and the Lord himself are one and the same because they are spiritual. Devotional service takes place within the internal energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is said to be the sun, and ignorance is called darkness. Where the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. Therefore, whenever devotional service is present under the proper guidance of bona fide spiritual master, there is no question of ignorance.
So this is the meaning of pure devotion service. Yeah, so we end the 15th chapter. So we come to the conclusion that devotion service is the best process to achieve God. Any questions? We'll begin the next chapter in the next class. Nothing else, then we'll end the class here. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.